Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ian Mann, and I'm joined on the panel today via Zoom with Ms. Carrie Linkletter and Mr. Richard Whitbread. The assessment department personnel today is Mr. Clayton Deitchen, and the administrative personnel is Ms. Phoebe Graywood. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note that you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the meeting, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing is concluded, you may leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the business assessment role in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the application has been brought forward, once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all of the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 and 4 through 6 on our docket today. Ms. Graywood, would you please affirm the assessors and the first applicant's testimony?
Mr. Deitchen, please state your full name.
Clayton Deitchen.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And Mr. Newman, state your full name.
Mark Newman.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll turn to number 1 on the docket. This is street address of 41 Westbrook Street. I understand that the sole area of appeal or discussion today is the annual rental value. And Mr. Deitchen, if you could please introduce the property and provide your evidence.
So this is file number 24-5034. Address is 41 Westbrook Street. The business assessment ID is 29397. You can see on the first page that the premise breakdown, it is a parking lot, 96 stalls at a monthly net unit rent of $92, brings the annual net rent to $105,984, and that's rounded to $105,960. You can see on my first page, I just put a little note, 21. The 21 assessed value is at 103.50. It wasn't appealed. It's actually gone down since then and stayed the same in 23. A little description on page 1 as well of the property. You can see it is a parking lot. Looks like it was built in the 50s and about 37,000 square feet. Page 2 is just the order revision order. You can see for the realty, it was reduced from $2,951,000 to $2,233,000. Unfortunately, there's no actual information on what it was based on. On the second page, you can see is based on the evidence presented by both the applicant and assessment and taxation department. Then continue on to page 5 is just the overhead view of the property. You can see it's right next to the Gold Eyes Stadium, and the way it's broken down, from my understanding, is the outside stalls around the outer edge are the yearly permanent parking stalls, and then the ones in the middle are actually more seasonal parking. So between, I believe it is September and April, they are rented out, and then the rest of the year it's for Gold Eyes parking and such. And the breakdown, from what I could tell, is 46 of the annual and then the 50 seasonal in the middle. It's kind of hard to see on the picture, but that is how it is broken out. Oops. Page 6 is just another overhead view of the property. Page 7 is just a street view of the subject. Page 8 is my rent comparables. So you can see that they range from, on the low end, 50.94 to all the way up to 248.03. And this is the 2022 reported rental rates for surface parking. So you can see they're all around the area. The Bannatyne ones are probably the closest in proximity, with the mean being 126.21 and the median being 96.26. I feel like our rate of $92 is well in line with these comparables. And continue on to page 9. You could just see this is the Gold Eyes lot information. So you can see it says the seasonal between those times 150. Reserve parking is the outer area ones, $210 a stall. And then on page 10, again, is just more information about this. And continue on to page 11 is just the mailers. So you can see the mailers in 2022, they're reporting a negative income. And 21, again, on page 14, negative income. I believe this is due to the fact that they made a business decision to have the seasonal parking and have them essentially reserved for the Gold Eyes parking, so they're not bringing in full possible income for the whole lot. And I feel like if it was rented out fully or like a normal lot, it would be generating a lot more income. And again, on page 16, I kind of brought back the mailers to 2018 and 2019 just to see what they were before they started going down a bit, possibly because of COVID. They weren't generating as much or at all any of that game day revenue. So you could see in 2019 they were generating about $70,000 in NOI. And then page 17, you could see that they're generating about 68,000. So they were pretty strong earners back prior to that. And again, this is still with the seasonal parking for that essentially a third of the year for the Gold Eyes. And then pages 18 and forward is just the information from the applicant from the realty appeal. So they kind of talked about the similar things, and the NOI, it looks like they applied a $70,000 NOI at that time. And then the last page is just the comparables that the applicant used during the realty appeal. Some of the mailer information they used is a bit older, but you can see the monthly net rent per stall. There's one on Pioneer, 167, 179 a stall, 148. So they're all up there in NOI per stall. And that's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Newman, questions? Mr. Newman, you're muted. There you go.
Yes, thank you. So good afternoon, Mr. Deitchen. Let me ask you firstly, the information on page 1 of your brief, the rate per stall, is that all model generated?
That is correct.
And would it be fair to say that the system automatically generates the data on page 1 of your report?
Like it's all, yeah, I guess so.
Let me express it a different way. You didn't go in and make any adjustments to the model. You simply accepted what the model generated.
Oh, no, yeah, no, this is all model driven. I didn't adjust
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
And then similarly, if we look at page 8 of your brief, that's where you list your rent comparables.
Mhm.
Are those all model generated as well?
The comparables, these are based on actuals from these properties.
I understand, but the selection of the comparables does the model select them?
The model doesn't select them, no. Like there, we have a list of comparables that we have for this area.
So you selected these comparables?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. And when you decided which comparables you would select, because I think you said in your evidence earlier that you felt that the Bannatyne lots were the ones that were closest in proximity.
I would say probably the closest ones, yeah.
Okay.
Like the McDermott's a bit farther, I think, on the other side of Main Street there.
Okay.
Hargrave and McDermott is a bit farther as well, I think, across Main Street. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And in deciding which comparables you would select,
Mhm.
what criteria did you take into account? Was it simply geographic location, proximity?
Yeah, mainly, yeah, I would say that's the main
Okay.
one.
And did you take into account, and was, well, let me ask it a different way. Is that the sole criteria you took into account?
Yeah, I would say so, yes.
Okay. Um, and so by extension, you didn't look at the nature of the activity, the nature of the premises, the nature of the buildings that surround both the subject property and the comparables, correct?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
You did not take into account in selecting the comparables the nature of the activity that surrounds these parking lots, correct?
Um, Not that I know of.
Yes, okay. And do we agree that parking lots and their ability to generate income, that's a function of activity around the parking lot? So, for example, a parking lot at the corner of Portage and Main, underneath or adjacent to all the big office towers at Portage and Main, it's going to have the greater potential demand from all of the employees who work in that area. Would you agree with that?
Possibly, it would be hard to say because people could park, a lot and then walk a number of minutes to another spot.
They could. You're right. Um, okay, we can leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater, questions?
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Whitbread, questions?
No, I have none either, thanks.
I have a question with respect to the ARV, Mr. Deitchen, that was assessed at the 105,960 rounded down. Was that ARV adjusted in any way as a result of the 25% reduction in the realty order from the Board of Revision, or is that based on the I guess, original assessment?
That would be just based on the original assessment.
Okay, and you did mention this, that the order did not reflect whether it was a increased cap rate or a reduction in net operating income. It just said it was based on the evidence presented by both the applicant and the assessment and taxation department. Were any calculations done to try to determine what the new realty amount was based on?
I didn't want to speculate on.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate I couldn't figure. Yeah.
Okay. The other question I have is whether you can expand or not on the restricted nature of parking. I believe you indicated that you thought that there had been a reduction in the monthly parking or the yearly parking in favor of scramble parking, for want of a better word, or casual parking. Do you have any evidence of that, or any indication of that, or do you have any more evidence of that?
I think it on my pages 9 and 10, it mentions, let's see, the seasonal parking from September to April. So
Yes.
that's the parking that can use that interior 50 stalls. And then from, I guess, May to August, it was reserved for, I believe it's Gold Eyes. I don't know if it's Gold Eyes like employees or if it's open for people attending the games. But yeah, it's reserved from those from May to August, I guess it would be.
Okay, and there's an indication there that monthly parkers must be out of the lot by 6 p.m., but presumably, okay, the monthly parkers must be out by 6 p.m. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I think that'd be the exterior ones, I believe.
That's the, yes, because the interior ones are the scramble parking or the casual parking.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Newman, your evidence, please.
Thank you. Let me start by just making an observation about one of your questions, Mr. Mann, which is the Board of Revision decision on the realty. Was there any indication as to whether it was arrived at by virtue of an adjustment to the cap rate or an adjustment to the net operating income? The approach of the city was actually to use a direct comparison land value and not an income approach.
Okay.
That was the difference. On our side, we used an income value. I'll also mention that I have rebuttal, and that'll come later. It's really just to address the assessor's comparables, but we'll get to that after I make my presentation and have been questioned, I believe. So looking at my brief, page 1, or actually page number 2, is a copy of the assessment. We know how that's been arrived at. Burden of proof, page number 3. Burden of proof is, of course, on the assessor. Parking lots, and I've done lots of parking lots through this cycle. A lot of parking lots in downtown Winnipeg continue to experience the impacts of COVID. And it's not even so much COVID anymore, but it's a shift in how people work and the shift to remote work. And the result of that is that the population that uses parking lots in downtown Winnipeg every day of the week has diminished significantly. I asked the assessor about Portage and Main, for example, and many of you may have been in the Winnipeg Square parking lot. It's a busy parking lot because, frankly and simply, you've got all these office buildings up above it. People want to park indoors. It's expensive parking, but people want to park indoors. They want the convenience to avoid the winters. And Mr. Deitchen is correct that sometimes people will walk. And my view of how people make parking lot decisions is it's a function of two things. How far, which translates into how much of that do I have to walk in the cold winters? And secondly, how much is it going to cost me? And it's a balancing of those two considerations to ultimately arrive at a value. So, or a decision rather, as to which parking lot they will utilize. So at page 3 of my brief, I talk about the impact on parking and the demand for parking. And if the demand for parking is reduced, then we need fewer parking lots or fewer parking stalls. But of course, the law of supply and demand says if you have an oversupply and lesser demand, then something will happen. And the revenue will come down. And that's what's happened almost universally, not absolutely, but almost universally for parking lots in downtown Winnipeg. And it's for a number of reasons. COVID is one of them, but I think COVID was the catalyst in the sense that it led to the remote work concept, which continues to this day. Many unions, the City of Winnipeg unions, indeed, resist forcing the employees back to the workplace every day of the week. Downtown Biz, bottom of page 3 onto the top of page 4, wrote a report speaking about the impacts on the worker population in downtown Winnipeg and the revenue and the economic spinoff for the businesses in downtown Winnipeg. So all these things together contribute to a reduction in demand. Then at page 5, we get to the question of the location of the lot. And the location has to be considered, and the location of the comparable lots have to be considered, and that'll be the subject of the rebuttal. But this lot, and I'll come to some mapping and some photos in a moment, this lot is on the periphery of downtown Winnipeg. It's not in the central business core, and it's also not in the heart of the Exchange District, and I'll show you photos to address that. So additionally, some of the stalls have plugs, and many do not. So I then give you, and the assessor's got this in his brief as well, but here's the 5 years of revenue and expenses. And you can see that revenue dropped off quite precipitously in 2020. It dropped off again in 2021. It dropped off still more in 2022. And you can see that that leads to negative income. It leads to losses on an operating basis as we get into 2021 and 2022, with a small positive revenue in 2020. It's interesting to note, and I observed this at the top of page 6, how expensive the property taxes are on this property. You know, they're near to $60,000 in 18, 19, and 20, $69,000 in 2019, 59,000 or near to 60 in 2018. They are expensive. Business taxes are also expensive, and they average about $8,650. And so you've got near to $70,000 of expenses just eating up $70,000 of revenue before there's any positive revenue or positive income to be generated by an owner. Lower half of page 6, you see the location of the lot and the mapping. Page 7, you see an overhead photo showing the lot. Page 8, from a slightly higher elevation, again, the lot, and it's on Westbrook. Page 9, this is off the city's mapping service as well, and it allows you to select certain items. And here I selected surface parking lots, and you can see that everything in red that's shown in this photo is a surface parking lot. It doesn't go as far to the north as Bannatyne, and in hindsight, I wish I had done that, and those are some of the assessor's comparables, but you'll see some of those in the rebuttal brief as well. But what you can see is there are lots and lots and lots of parking lots in this area. And these are all surface parking lots, by the way. That's then followed by the questionnaires for 2018 through 2019. And I've already shown you the summary of that on page 5 of my brief. So ultimately, I select $60,000 as the annual rental value that should be selected for this lot. And I do it primarily because, and that's obviously, it's almost at the top revenue that was achieved in 2018, but certainly $60,000 has not been achieved in any year since, and indeed losses have been achieved in the 2 most recent years, 21 and 22, with a small positive income in 2020. And again, I do this primarily because I think the demand for parking has changed. This lot is on the periphery. It's somewhat distant from the large buildings, which you'll see when we look at the assessor's comparables in my rebuttal. So subject to questions, that's my submission.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Mr. Deitch, questions?
Just a few. Beyond page 3, I guess page 4, the parking demand and impacts of COVID. Do you have any sort of market study or anything to show that there's been a continued reduction in revenues for parking and is likely permanent, as it says in here?
So I don't know that it matters if it's permanent, because we're not doing a buy and sell of the property. This isn't a realty value. This is simply what's the income in at our applicable reference date. So I can only tell you that, and I've done parking lots for years and years, and I do many lots in the Exchange District. I do parking structures in downtown Winnipeg. And again, I can tell you that almost without exception, Winnipeg Square is one of the exceptions, but almost without exception, every parking lot that I've come across has seen a reduction in their revenue, at least through to April 1 of 2023. What the future holds, I guess we don't know with certainty, but I believe that, again, the catalyst was COVID, but the result of that is the switch to remote work and the reluctance of a lot of people to come downtown every day of the week, which is impacting demand for parking and accordingly revenue.
Yeah, so I guess I should have phrased it differently. Do you have any information to show that these reduced incomes and lower parking rates have continued all the way up until the reference date?
Well, you see it in the information I've provided at the bottom of page 5. But again, I'm telling you that from all the other parking lots I've done, I'm seeing almost universally, and I mentioned Winnipeg Square as an exception, I'm seeing almost universally reductions in the revenues that these lots are generating.
I guess that goes into my next question. Do you have any comparable properties or anything to look at in the market to support these claims, I guess? I know we're looking at the subject, but is there any comparables in the area that you used?
So I did not bring forward the revenue and expenses for other properties, but I can tell you that I did a number of the immediately surrounding lots that are visible in the photos. And on all of those lots, the revenues were down as well, but I didn't bring the data forward.
Okay, I guess that goes into my next question, because it looks like in the realty appeal, you brought in comparables that stated net monthly rents per stall. Is there a reason that you didn't use that for this appeal?
I think what you're looking at was a chart. That chart that's at page 25 of your brief, if that's what you're talking about, that was prepared by Altus as part of a study that they did.
Okay. Would you agree then that this isn't necessarily run as a normal lot, with the fact that they reserve the parking for 4 months of the year for I guess the gold eyes and such, and in turn, do you believe that would reduce the potential income for the property?
So for a portion of the year, for approximately 4 months, a portion of the lot is reserved for gold eyes. But we see that in 2020 and 2021, when no baseball was played because of COVID in Winnipeg, that the revenues were down significantly then, and the net operating income was down. Baseball began to be played again in 2022, and revenues had dropped even further. So yes, there is the consideration to the concept that gold eyes for a portion of the year utilize a portion of the lot. But I think more importantly is I think the revenues reflected at page 5 of my brief reveal the fact that even when baseball is not being played in 2020 and 2021, COVID and remote work have brought the revenues down significantly.
Okay. So I guess on your page 6, you came to an ARV of 60,000. How did you exactly calculate the 60,000?
So what I did is I looked at the revenues over the years 2018 through 2022, which is at the bottom of page 5 of my brief. And even though $60,000 is higher than every year, with the exception of 2018, I was trying to be reasonable in my selection, conservative in my selection, and that's why I selected $60,000.
Okay, so it's solely based on the actuals that they were bringing in.
Yes.
And I guess just one other quick question. Is there a reason that you revised your NO or ARV, I guess, from the realty appeal from 70,000 to 60,000?
There is, as I reflected upon it after the fact, I thought although the 70 was selected with the concept of being conservative there as well, in hindsight, I thought it was a little too conservative. And so I took it down another $10,000.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, questions?
Couple, well, maybe one. So I note your chart where the performance has dropped off year over year, Mr. Newman. What I can't find anywhere in here is what the monthly rates were during these times. Did they change the rates or did just the volume of parkers fall?
So there are rates available in some of the in-park information that's in the assessor's brief. But what I would say to you is more than anything, the volume of parkers fell. And I should have asked Mr. Deitchen this in fairness, but that's one of the difficulties sometimes with the model. The model, in my view, doesn't appropriately take vacancy into account. But primarily what happened here is simply the volume dropped off significantly.
Right. So the rates could have stayed the same, but sheer volume changed.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I had a question about comps, but you've already answered that to the assessors. That's fine. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater, questions?
Just one question, thank you. Mr. Newman, this might be slightly unfair, but would you happen to know the percentage for the parking stalls? What is monthly and what is casual?
I do not know.
Okay, thank you.
But
That's
I
all.
will, and I don't know. So now I'm going to give you speculation. The parking lots that do the best in terms of casual, in my view, are always the one that are closest to where the people need to go. If you need to go to a medical appointment, the casual lots around that medical appointment are the ones that are going to get the best turnover, and they'll do the best because the more turnover you get, the more revenue you'll generate. This one, and it's something I've said before, it's on the periphery. There's really nothing major right around it. So my 2 cents for what they're worth.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Newman, looking at page 4, you referenced the Downtown Winnipeg Biz Report, the title being State of Downtown, the Impact of the Pandemic to Date. What is the date of the report?
The report was published in 2021.
Okay. Thank you. That is the only question I had, and you indicated that you had some rebuttal evidence as well.
I do.
I have not as yet seen that. That hasn't been distributed. Ms. Graywood, can you please distribute that to the...
It has been distributed. It should be in your SharePoint file under item 1. This should be the third item under item 1.
Okay, I'm going to have to refresh. Please bear with me for a moment. Has everyone else got it?
Yep.
No, I'm refreshing.
I have it now. And it's a maps and photos primarily.
That's correct. And what I do, if everyone's got it.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I do is I track the assessor's comparables, really to make the point simply that location is important because what's around a parking lot can often have a significant impact on its ability to generate revenue. So the assessor's first comparable was 211 McDermott. That's at the corner of Main Street and McDermott. And you see that mapping. And then on the next page, you see a photo. There's the lot on the left. There's Main Street. There's what used to be the Canadian Wheat Board building. There's 433 Main poking up above across Main Street. To the right-hand side of the photo, you can see in the background the Burke's building. And then, of course, one block over is Portage and Main. You're going to get the Richardson building. You're going to get some buildings there. So it's quite proximate to a high density of office and other commercial activity, and it creates a greater opportunity for this lot to generate revenue. And this is what I do conceptually with all of the comparables. The next one is 124 Bannatyne. So you can see that that is close to the river, just to the west of waterfront. And then you can see the photos. And so this is from essentially the corner of Rory, looking towards the river. On the right-hand side is a 5 or 6 story office building. There are additional office buildings on this street. MTC and the concert hall are essentially a block away, a block and a half away. You've got the residential development along Waterfront Drive. So again, lots of demand generators, as I call them, in the area. 170 Bannatyne is just to the east of Main Street. It is behind one of the office buildings we saw in the photo of 211 McDermott. I'll point that out. And then when we look at the photo, so the large building in the center of the photo, that's 433 Main. That's where the passport office used to be. That's the building that's been converted in part to residential. On the right-hand side is the Ashdown Warehouse building. There are other buildings along Main Street that you can see, the white buildings, the white stone building. Again, that's where the Canadian Wheat Board was at one time. And again, quite proximate to MTC and the concert hall. And so what lots like this get is they get daytime traffic, which may well be monthly because people who work in the area regularly want a monthly reserve stall. But then the stalls become available for casual in the evening. Lots of restaurants in the area, MTC, the concert hall. So there's demand on certainly some reasonable number of nights in the evening to support the casual parking revenue. Then 166 Bannatyne, just to the east of the prior one, at the corner of Rory and Bannatyne. And as we can see, it's directly across the street from the Ashdown Warehouse building, which is on the right. To the left, that's up Rory Street. You can see the Richardson building. You can see the buildings on Bannatyne. You can see the same office buildings in the background that are along Main Street. So again, high density, and again, quite proximate to MTC and the concert hall, generating the ability to have both daytime monthly, but also casual evening. 125 Lombard, so down between Rory and Waterfront on the north side of the street. This photo shows the lot on the immediate left. The building to the left-hand side of the photo, that's the old brick fine furniture building. It's now 111,000 square foot office building, occupied primarily by government. Immediately to the east of it is 93 Lombard, a 65,000 square foot office building. And to the east of that is 200 Waterfront, an approximately 45,000 square foot office building. I know all these buildings well because I do the appeals. On the right-hand side of the photo, under construction, you can see the Richardson Innovation Center. That's their combination of office and labs. And that building is, of course, complete now. And so what I'm saying to you is that in terms of this lot, there are significant demand generators immediately proximate. If you turned around and faced yourself west, about a block up the road is the Richardson building. The Grain Exchange building is on the corner of Rory and Lombard, quite nearby. So there's lots happening in this area. Then the next one is 212 Bannatyne. And from the mapping, you can see that that is just to the west of Main Street. It actually looks onto Old Market Square, and therefore it's quite proximate to City Hall, quite proximate to a lot of the activity in the Exchange District. And you can see that's the lot on the left. That's the old Ashdown building on the right-hand side, which is now offices and a variety of things. That's the art space building in the middle of the photo in the background. And if we turned around and looked towards Main, we'd see again many of the same office buildings we saw in the prior photos all along Main. It's also close to City Hall. And so again, lots of demand generators in this building, including MTC and the concert hall. And then there's a lot at the corner of Hargrave and McDermott. Just looking at page 13, you see the mapping. And so that is west of Main, obviously. And what you see here is, so the lot is on the left, across the street, the blue awning building on the left, and then across the street is the lot. You can see the Richardson building up the road in the background of the photo. You can see there are lots of commercial buildings in the nearby area. My point of bringing all of this to you is simply to illustrate that for many of the assessor's comparables, and as he said, he selected them based solely on proximity, but many of these comparables have significant office, residential, commercial, all around them, with the opportunity for casual evening parking from restaurants, MTC, concert hall in the area. The subject is on the periphery of downtown, as I said. I don't think it's as well located in terms of being able to generate business. That's my submission.
Thank you. Mr. Deitchen, questions on the rebuttal evidence?
No, thank you.
Ms. Linkletter?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Whitbread?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
And I don't have any questions. Mr. Deitchen, have you got any rebuttal evidence?
No.
Okay, great. Then I will ask Mr. Deitchen if you have any summary to make with respect to this property.
I guess just quickly, I think we just have to look at this as a normal lot that is bringing in rent throughout the year rather than having different things for parts of the year, and to determine a fair market value. And I think that our comparables support the value that we have. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Newman?
Comparables are better because of what's around them. And this lot has suffered from the downturn in business, catalyst COVID, but the lingering effect is remote work. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Then, having heard the evidence, we will conclude this matter. And thank you both for your presentation. Mr. Newman, you will certainly be receiving the order in due course.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newman.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let Mr. Neufeld in here.
You?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
by lack of evidence for the next three items on the docket, one could assume they will be confirmed. I shouldn't assume, but I'm imagining. And if they are going to be confirmed, could we just get the assessor to read in the file number facts that we need for the record and not go through all the evidence?
I think that's fair. I received, and before we continue on, perhaps we'll swear in Mr. Neufeld so that he can participate if he's got something to add with respect to this, and then we can deal with the presentation of the evidence. But certainly we can do that, I think. Ms. Graywood, would you please affirm Mr. Neufeld?
Mr. Neufeld, please state your full name.
Ayrton Neufeld.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as you no doubt heard, with respect to the confirmation that you had indicated, and I received an email earlier about your intentions with respect to seeking confirmation on items 4, 5, and 6. That's accurate, Mr.
Yes,
Neufeld?
that's
That's what your position will be?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Then that leaves only, there's one additional issue on item number 6 that we can get to. I believe liability to taxation and classification was also included in the appeal, but we can deal with that when we get to number 6.
Sorry,
So
which, do you have the address for 6?
that's a Donald Street address. I might just go to that one. That is, it's just Donald Street. It's premises ID 12285.
Okay, thank you.
That's what the agenda indicates in any event. That
Yeah, sorry, I didn't pull it up today.
okay. Well, we can deal with that when we get to that matter, but I just wanted to alert you to it so that you're prepared to address it.
Yeah,
And
no, I don't think I'll have anything to say to it, so I'll be just requesting confirmation as that as well. I wasn't aware. It might have been just something that was checked off. Sometimes we do them a little hastily. So, but there's nothing I can think of that would warrant that a challenge today. So.
fair enough. And then finally, do you have any objection to the procedure as proposed by Mr. Whitbread that the file number, the the property information be summarized in order to support the confirmation, or do you have a requirement to hear?
No objection. I prefer that as well. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Then, Mr. Deitchen, if you can take your direction from that and go to the first property at number 4, that's also a Donald Street property.
That file number 5056.
Please.
Yeah, okay, so that's file number 24-5056. Address is Donald Street. Business assessment ID is 42731. It is a parking lot, and the total ARV is at 88,320, and we are seeking confirmation.
Okay. And Mr. Neufeld, that's what you're seeking confirmation of as well?
That is correct. Thank you.
Ms. Linkletter, have you any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Whitbread?
I have none, thank you.
And I have no questions, and given the confirmation request, we will conclude that matter and move on to the next matter, which is a Hargrave parking lot. I'm just looking for the street, no street address, but the file number is 24-5057. Mr. Deitchen, if you could introduce that property and provide the ARV and amount.
Okay, this is file number 24-5057. This is Hargrave Street, business assessment ID 42732. It is again a parking lot, and the total ARV is at 62,940, and we are seeking confirmation. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, same request?
Yes, please.
Okay, so again, just you're seeking confirmation of that. Ms. Linkletter, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Whitbread?
None, thanks.
And I have none, so given the request, we will conclude this matter and move on to the last matter. And as I indicated, Mr. Neufeld, there is, and I'm just going to go to the agenda here with respect to this matter. I believe that there was liability to taxation and classification also raised as an issue. Yeah, sorry, amount of annual,
just classification.
Just classification, sorry, amount of ARV and classification of property were placed at issue.
Okay, I'm just quickly looking over this. There might have been some question on whether or not it should be residential, but I don't have a presentation, so I'll just request confirmation and then we'll deal with that. I don't think, yeah, this one might have been purchased for a residential development, but I don't have any information for you to consider, so I'll just request that it be confirmed and we'll deal with it if we see fit.
Okay, thank you very much. Then Mr. Deitchen, your evidence, please, with respect to this property.
It's file number 245151, Donald Street, business assessment ID 19125. ARVs at 80,640. Thanks.
And again, Mr. Neufeld seeking confirmation of both the ARV and.
I am. No, I'm realizing now it is used by a charity for a lot of it, but I again don't have this information, so we can potentially talk to the assessment department regarding it, and I'll request confirmation right today. Thank you.
Okay, then that being your position, Mr. Whitbread, have you any questions?
I don't, thank you.
Ms. Linklater?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions. I'm assuming there's no need for a summary from either party on any of these properties.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Then, having heard the evidence, we will conclude that matter as well. And that concludes all of the matters scheduled for hearing today. Thank you, Mr. Deitchen and Mr. Neufeld, and we will adjourn this hearing.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.